There have been several updates about the CMA, the appeal that's coming through, and some concerns about one of the people who could have been pretty high up in regards to the decision to block the merger with the CMA. Let's talk about everything that's been developing and the upcoming appeal at the end of May. So I think we're going to start with the article about the CMA director who blocked the merger, who had a concerning conflict of interest, to put it mildly. Basically, it says a CMA director who blocked Microsoft Activision merger previously worked for a Sony law firm. So there's an update here. The UK regulator, this is from Windows Central. So we know the UK regulator, known as the CMA, blocked the merger. Despite protests from some of Microsoft's larger competitors, the vast majority of the gaming industry have been supportive of the deal. Florian Mueller, who is a prominent patent lawyer following the case, discovered that the UK's senior director used to work for a firm that is actively representing Sony, potentially highlighting a conflict of interest and a degradation of impartiality. There was actually this same concern with the EU Commission. The EU, as you may know, has gone on to approve the merger. But Florian Mueller said the following. He said, "A reporter from one of the most famous news agencies told me this about him. He's the guy that basically made the decision for the CMA. I don't want to disclose the agency/reporter. Didn't know about that influence over the merger review." So there is a potential conflict of interest there, and I have to wonder if that's going to play at all into the rebuttal that Microsoft has. Now, Microsoft has a few very specific points about why they are appealing the decision from the CMA, and whether or not they have a good case is sort of up to you, but it is pretty messed up that this conflict of interest, like, it feels like that person probably should have just recused themselves. Oh, PlayStation is a Sony company. I have previous business arrangements with that company. It's a conflict of interest. That's pretty standard operating procedure for most things. Like, if I had worked at Microsoft, I would never review a Microsoft Game Studios game, right? I've never worked at Microsoft, so I can say good and bad things about them all I want. But anyway, what else do we have in here? They continue. The CMA is well known for its incompetence and ignorance when it comes to technology deals, having previously been defeated by Apple and other firms for its overreaching claims. Many decisions by the CMA in the past have demonstrably harmed investment in the UK market, potentially reducing innovation and jobs in a region desperately in need of it. The CMA has endured criticism from the European Commission and the UK government itself in recent weeks for its strange, irrational choice to block Xbox's deal for Activision over fears that it could harm the cloud gaming market, which by most metrics barely even exists. And now another interesting piece of the irrationality pie may have been covered. The interesting piece is the fact that people are saying that they got their math wrong, right? So basically, they calculated the total number of cloud users on Xbox, including all Game Pass users, but not all Game Pass users utilize the service. So we have another article here about the merger appeal arguments that are going to be hitting the CMA. Before we get into them, we actually have a sponsor this week. It is NordVPN. So thank you, NordVPN, for sponsoring the video. Let's dive into it. Today's video is actually sponsored by NordVPN. NordVPN is great. I love VPNs because not only are there protection benefits, but also you can sometimes use them to access games way before they're released to the United States side of the world or the UK. For example, Lost Ark was available in Korea long before it was available in the United States. So I was actually able to play that game about a year before it came out to the general public and get to experience and see what it would all be about, and then play it again when it came to the United States. I also got to access a lot of characters that didn't come to the United States until later. So that was really, really cool. If you're traveling abroad and you're in a place where you need to access your Google account and Google happens to be blocked in that location, like it is in China, You can actually use a VPN to access your flight information or travel details in case you have been blocked from access to those websites in another country. Again, another huge benefit. And all of that is on top of just the general security benefits you get from using a VPN. So I'm really happy about this partnership. And if you want to check it out, you can use code DESTIN over at nordvpn.com/Destin to get access to it yourself. It's risk-free for 30 days, money back guarantee. So be sure to check it out. And thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Remember that guy? That guy who used to wear glasses that would cover up the dark circles under my eyes? I shot that a while ago. They finally got back to me and approved it. So thank you, NordVPN, for the sponsorship. I got LASIK in that time. Anyway, continuing on. Some of Microsoft's merger appeal arguments aren't very strong. Some of the arguments that Microsoft present in its appeal to overturn the Competition and Markets Authority merger block decision aren't very strong. So this is from Derek Strickland over at Tweaktown. He's been following the case very well, and he feels like some of their points could be better. So, ground two, the respondent erred in failing to take proper account of 3 long-term commercial agreements which the applicant had entered into with cloud gaming providers for the licensing of rights to stream its games, including Activision's gaming content post-merger, the agreements in this assessment. And ground 3, the respondent's finding that Activision would have been likely to make its gaming content available on cloud gaming service absent the merger was irrational and arrived at in a procedurally unfair manner. Activision's been pretty clear. We have no interest in cloud gaming or jumping off into cloud gaming in any of these cases. There seems to be very little downside unless, of course, Activision were to launch its own multi-game subscription platform with some form of game streaming, like a publisher-specific Xbox Game Pass Ultimate offering. So for me, Activision's been very clear. We have no interest of entering the cloud gaming market. So, I mean, I disagree with Derek on that point. He says, ground 4A, on the other hand, is much more apparent in its weakness, which is the respondent wrongfully relied on evidence that so-called AAA games would be important for cloud gaming services to find that Activision games in particular would hold such importance. He says, 4A, on the other hand, is much more apparent in its weakness. Microsoft's legal counsel make a point that goes against basic market sense and counters everything we know about entertainment subscription services, especially multi-game subscription services like Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, and Nintendo Switch Online, but also cloud streaming services that are simply reliant on value. In 4A, Microsoft's legal counsel says that the CMA wrongly relied on evidence. We just read it. This seems to imply that cloud gaming services do not need to rely on AAA hits in order to attain subscribers. That is not the case. Yeah, I agree. If that argument in 4A does seem pretty weak, I imagine what the lawyers are doing are setting up for a point later. But if your basis is sort of weak, that kind of puts them on flimsy ground. I mean, the main arguments they can make is you have a conflict of interest with a person who is pretty high up in the decision making. You got your math wrong on Xbox Game Pass subscribers. I think that one's pretty strong. And I haven't read all of the claims, but being in third place and then blocking it when everybody else has approved it without concessions. I think the EU was the first one to have it with concessions. The FTC never heard from Microsoft, never heard a counter argument. So it's really interesting to see that it just gets blocked that way. I'll link to the full article so you can check out Derek's points. But just so you know, the whole appeal thing is coming out very soon. Idle Sloth says Microsoft's appeal to the CAT against the CMA block will begin on Tuesday, May 30th. So that's the first day of the week. Basically tomorrow, I think, U.S. time. The CAT has just published a summary of Microsoft's grounds of appeal. Also, Activision Blizzard also appealed. It's just not published yet. And you can actually go to the website and read everything about the appeal for the deal. Pursuant to Rules 1426, the CAT, oh my God, gives notice of the receipt on May 24th, and Adobe Premiere just crashed for some reason, whatever. And they've basically received that they will be doing it. Here, we can actually read the grounds, if you'll stick with me. Ground 1, the respondent made fundamental errors in the assessment of the application's current position in the cloud gaming services by failing to take accounts of constraints from native gaming, whereby gamers access games installed on their devices through a digital download or physical disc, undermining its standard lessenings of competition finding. So ground 1 seems pretty strong. The respondent erred in failing to take proper account of 3 long-term commercial agreements. I mean, if that's true, that should have been taken into account. Grounds 3 and 4 are the one that Derek said were weak. The respondent's finding that Activision would have been likely to make its gaming content available on cloud gaming services absent the merger was irrational and arrived at in a procedurally unfair manner. That one I disagree with, Derek, because Bobby Kotick and Activision were very clear, saying we never want to make our games available on cloud gaming. Ground 4, the respondent finding that the application would have had the ability to incentive to foreclose rival cloud gaming service by withholding access to Activision gaming content post-merger was unlawful. In particular, the respondent's analysis was affected by 4 errors, each of which in isolation separately and are cumulatively renders the findings on ability and incentive unlawful, irrational, and are disproportionate. So if it's illegal, if the argument is that it's illegal, that seems a little stronger to me. They relied on evidence that so-called AAA games would be important for cloud gaming services. I think that one's true. The respondent failed to take account, true in that I do think cloud gaming services need AAA games to be successful. Otherwise, why are you going to use them, right? The respondent failed to take account of the relevant reliance regarding immediate losses from hypothetical foreclosure, and as set out in ground, so they would lose money. That's a stronger argument. And in ground 1, ground 2, the respondent wrongfully failed to take account of relevant out-of-market constraints and agreements. In assessing remedial action for the SLC, the respondent erred in law by proceeding on the basis that it had a duty to impose what is described as a comprehensive remedy, thus failing to consider a range of remedies and assess their benefits. So they're saying that's interesting. They got that wrong. Unlawfully failed to take account of the interest of comity, erred in rejecting the Microsoft Cloud remedy, which rejection was in all the circumstances disproportionate, and acted in breach of the respondent's common law duty of fairness in the CMA's all remedies. So they want the following relief: quash the decision in its entirety and order that the respondent pays the application's cost of the application. That's just petty, but I mean, if they get it, good. Such further or other relief as the tribunal deems fit. So I imagine that the decision to block, they're saying, we don't want you to block the deal anymore. We think you should let this go through, and we'll see what happens. Now, Florian Mueller had one more interesting fact about the whole head of the case. As I predicted, Mr. Justice Marcus Smith, the president of the CAT Tribunal, and also a patent judge, will be presiding over the proceedings. For now, he's the only judge listed, but there will be a panel. 2 others will join him. This appeal rocks, according to Florian Mueller. So he feels very strong about the appeal. That's what's going on. It is the 28th today. So in 48 hours from the time this video goes live, we should at least, I believe it's the filing on the 30th. I don't know that any decision is going to come out of it, but we'll see what transpires, and I will be sure to update you. While I have you, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell if you like my content. And if you liked it and you're already subscribed, hit that like button to know when my content goes up. I've been really spotty with my coverage lately, playing with my kids a lot. So that's been a lot of fun. Playing with my son, he's like riding a bike and stuff now. So that's pretty awesome to watch. Thank you so much to the members. I have to update this list. I didn't do it yet because I've been all over the place, but thank you so much. If you want to become a member, click that join button. Thank you to anybody who is a member, whether you're on this page or not. I appreciate you. You get all these videos without ads. So there you go. Thanks so much for watching. I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.